I'll tell you when we can begin.
Thank you.
Okay, Danielle, we can begin.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Oglesby, and I am the Chief Operating Officer of the Nassau County Industrial Development Agency. On behalf of our chairman, members of the board, and staff, I welcome you to today's open meeting of the Board of Directors. Today is August 12th, 2020, and the time is now 6:31 p.m. Given the ongoing COVID-19 public health crisis and related executive orders issued by Governor Andrew Cuomo, this public meeting is being conducted using telephone conference and video conference. Participants have accessed this public meeting through a Zoom registration or by watching the live stream on our YouTube channel. If you are participating via Zoom, the agency encourages all interested parties to participate and as such has reserved certain points in today's meeting for public comment. If you choose to make a comment, you will do so by selecting the raise hand icon on your device. Once you select the raise hand icon, you will have the opportunity to speak when your name is announced. Please note, this is a moderated meeting, and at times you may hear us speaking directly to our moderator, Catherine Fee, Chief Marketing Officer and Director of Business Development for the IDA. Please note that this meeting is being both live streamed and recorded. In addition, we have a stenographer present who will be transcribing the meeting so we can add the transcript of the meeting to the public record. Interested parties may also submit written comments, which will be included within the public meeting records. Written comments may be sent to Harry Coughlin, Chief Executive Officer at 1 West Street, 4th floor, Mineola, New York, 11501, or via email at info@nassauida.org. Mr. Chairman, I now turn to you to commence the meeting of the Industrial Development Agency.
Thank you, Danielle, and thank you everyone for attending, both our board members and the public. First, I'd like to do a roll call, and then we'll do a pledge of allegiance. So let's do a roll call. I'll call you out, and then you guys tell me if you're here. Richard Kessel, I'm here. Louis Warren?
Here.
Anthony Simon? Anthony?
I'm here.
Okay. Tim Williams?
Here.
Thanks, Tim. Chris Fusco?
Present.
Thanks, Chris. Amy Flores?
Present.
Thank you, Amy. And John Kamatis?
Here.
Hey, John, how you doing?
How you doing? All right.
All good, all good. Good to have you as always. I'd now like to ask everyone to rise, and I'm going to ask John Kamatis if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
Of the United
Of the
States.
United States of America.
and to the
to the
republic
Republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
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 indivisible,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty
liberty,
and justice
and
for all.
justice.
liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you, John, and thank you, the board and members of the public. For the last few months, we've been doing our hearings and meetings remotely and by Zoom, and we have been doing a moment of silence for all of those people around the country, around the world, and certainly in New York and here in Nassau County and on Long Island, who have lost their lives due to COVID-19. I'd ask for that moment of silence now. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And, hope that everyone on this Zoom and certainly out there in our great county are healthy and stay healthy. That's obviously the most important thing we have. I will do a brief chairman report, and then we'll go into the business part of the meeting. First, just to indicate that there are a couple of issues I wanted to mention to the board. One being the Long Beach Superblock project. As many of you have known, we have had to postpone several public hearings on the Superblock. The first one was postponed due to, I guess, a lack of communication between the IDA and the city council and the city government in the city of Long Beach, and some of the concerns expressed. The second one, which was scheduled for last week, we decided to postpone due to the power outages that resulted from the storm Isaias, which hit Long Island and obviously impacted Long Beach. I did want the board to know that I've had a number of productive discussions with City Council President John Bendo, as well as some of the elected officials representing Long Beach. While I wasn't thrilled about canceling last week's meeting or hearings, I felt that the hearings, first of all, were going to be both in person and by Zoom. And we were going to have the hearing in person at the Alegria Hotel. And I want to say right from the start how appreciative I am, and we all are, for the Alegria Hotel to have volunteered to hold that hearing, and we'll be holding a hearing next week. I appreciate that and the community spirit that they showed. Unfortunately, at the time that the hearing was scheduled, the Alegria did not have power and could not host us. We did actually ask about the Friday, the next day, and that was not going to be possible either. And it was brought to my attention by several elected officials that there were many outages in Long Beach, and that people who might want to now participate in Zoom couldn't because they had no power and potentially no internet. And so Harry and myself, along with our staff and team, decided to postpone those hearings that were scheduled for last Thursday night and Friday morning. We have rescheduled those hearings for next Wednesday. That's the 19th. There'll be two hearings, one at 3 o'clock in the afternoon until 5, and then a second from 6:30 until people are finished. The hearings have been noticed. They will be in person at the Alegria Hotel. Again, thank you, Alegria Hotel. There will be a main room where speakers can speak. We will be adhering to all of the guidelines that the state has in terms of numbers of people, the wearing of masks, and social distancing. The city of Long Beach has been very helpful, and I want to thank both John Bendo, the city council president, and John McNally for helping us. They will be providing some security so that we make sure that, not that anyone's rambunctious, but we want to make sure that we keep the crowd to under 50 people. And that would include, obviously, the IDA team and if anyone else, from the applicant appears, which we've asked them to do. So this is a cooperative nature. There was a significant desire on the part of the city government in Long Beach and a number of elected officials representing the area for an in-person hearing. And we are fulfilling that request, but in a very careful and safe way. So my expectation is, absent another tropical storm hitting us in the next few days, and with this year going the way it's going, nothing is out of the question. We will be holding those hearings next Wednesday night, the 19th, 3 to 5, 6:30 on, in person and by Zoom. And board members, if they want to attend, they don't have to. Please contact me. And if not, you certainly can watch it on Zoom and through the internet and through our website. And I do want to indicate, without getting into details, that I've had discussions with a number of you on the board about the project, and all of the ideas that I've gotten are terrific. I got a great one today from Tim. I really appreciate all of the input. Chris, Anthony, I really appreciate your help as well. And I look forward to successful, reasonable hearings next week. And we do plan to have a board meeting on the 25th at night, and at which time we will take up the Superblock along with several other projects. I'm trying to keep that agenda as short as possible. I also want to indicate one other thing, and that is that the program that this board approved and created to distribute PPE to businesses in Nassau County and also within the town of Hempstead has really been an extraordinary success. And I want to commend County Executive Laura Curran and Town Supervisor Don Clavin of the town of Hempstead for their cooperative work in helping us distribute what looks like so far close to 2,000 kits to small businesses throughout Nassau County. We did have a distribution last week at Baldwin Park, and on Wednesday afternoon, the county executive, Laura Curran, town supervisor, Don Clavin, both came, joined me and our staff and team to give out those kits to town of Hempstead businesses. And putting these kits in the hands of businesses who really need them right now is just a spectacular program. And I have to say that our staff, led by Harry, Catherine, Danielle, Colleen, and everyone else, volunteers from a number of county agencies. And I want to thank Evelyn Simmons, Lionel Chitty, Amy, and some of the other agencies who gave us volunteers, and the volunteers from the town of Hempstead were very helpful. The staff did a spectacular job. There was one day where it poured. There was one day where it was sweltering. It's not easy. We still have a lot of kits to go, but the staff has done a tremendous job. This is a great initiative, helping small businesses. And I do want to indicate to you that the county IDA and the county will be meeting next week with the town of Hempstead because we do have several thousand kits left, and we'll be looking at a number of possibilities, including helping daycare, childcare, senior centers, schools and universities, and hopefully at our August 25th meeting, I'll be able to report on that second phase of the PPE project. But I want to thank the board. A number of you have called me about it. Without your support, this couldn't have happened. It's an extraordinary project, and I thank everyone for that. That concludes my report. Do any board members have any questions about either of those subjects?
Richie, this is Amy. This isn't a question, but I just also want to just show appreciation to the entire team. You know, we received a lot of positive feedback from businesses and in the appreciation of being able to help so many businesses, especially right now during the pandemic. This is something that not only will help businesses, but will also help them in keeping with the health and safety protocols that we want them to adhere to, and as well as their staff and the people that are attending their businesses. So this is a wonderful, a project that I'm really happy that it came to fruition, and with the help of everyone working together, we were able to help so many business owners that right now are in tremendous need of support. So so thank you to the whole team for making this happen.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate it. And to thank your staff people who volunteered to help us and interns. We really appreciated that as well. Thank you so much. Anyone else have any questions before we move into our item of business for this evening? Okay, seeing none. We have before us a consent resolution relating to a transfer of IDA benefits to a new leaseholder for the Nassau Coliseum, the Nassau Event Center. What I like to do is first ask Andrew if he'd like to introduce the attorney for the applicant and/or the applicant to make a brief presentation to the board and to the public.
Sure, Chairman. Just very briefly, as the chairman stated, in front of the board is a consent resolution relating to the Nassau Event Center, whereby the board would approve an assignment and assumption of the existing IDA documents from the current lessee to the leasehold the facilities. The reason is that there are certain alleged defaults by the leasehold, by the lessee under the county lease that in this process would be cured, and the lender would be stepping into the shoes of the lessee. And as the chairman suggested, I would like to introduce Peter Curry, who is representing both the lessee, the prior applicant, and the entity that is a designee of the leasehold lender that would be stepping into the shoes of the prior applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the board and staff of the IDA. As Andrew stated, I am representing both Nassau Events Center LLC, which seeks to assign the lease, and Nassau Live Center LLC, which the lease. Nassau Live Center is an entity designated by the mortgagee who is exercising its rights under the county lease, where it has a broad set of rights which do not require consent, that it can take over the leasehold interest on an event of default. And though it does not have those rights under the IDA documents as were originally negotiated. So that's why we're seeking consent for this transfer at this stage of the game. I think everybody's aware of the situation with the Coliseum and the fact that due to the pandemic and frankly for some other related reasons, it has not been open. It's been incapable of operating for a substantial period of time, and it has no real hope of commencing operations in the near future until we're allowed to have events that can have that many people at. So as a consequence of that, it had not been making payments to the county. And the county had declared an event of default, notified the leasehold lender. The leasehold lender agreed to step in. Leasehold lender, however, requires as a condition for it stepping in to the county lease and to curing the default that the IDA consent to the assignment and assumption of benefits. It's important to the leasehold mortgagee that these benefits be maintained, that the essential tax exempt pilot status of the arena remain as it is. I will tell you that this is an intermediate step here. This is only step one in a larger set of occurrences that will happen regarding the future development of the hub but this is an essential step at this stage of the game in order to keep the process going. And I'd like to open up the floor for any questions.
Thank you,
Is this-
Peter and Andrew. I'd ask the board members if they have, before we move on here, if they have any questions of either the Peter representing the applicant or of Andrew, our transaction attorney.
So this may be to Andrew, not to Peter. Andrew, once they commence whatever action they're going to commence to either extinguish the rights of the existing lessor as the lender and step into those shoes, will they have to come back to us once they find a final operator that they seek to transfer their rights to?
So with respect to anything that happens on the premises, in terms of any future development, the existing pilot does not cover that. So in order
No,
Sure,
I'm
to-
specifically talking
This is,
to limiting to the operation of the Coliseum as an events facility. Once they identify.
no, so yeah, the short answer is no. They are basically taking over all the transaction documents as they were in the hands of the assignor.
And if they choose to assign to another party, because presumably the lender is not going to remain as the long-term operator of the facility.
In that case, basically, all the assignment prohibitive provisions of the documents remain effective. So just like, they had to come in front of the board for a consent of an assignment, they would again have to come to the board for an assignment.
Would that be true if there's a interest assignment in the new entity? So this new entity that the lender has established to take over, if they simply sell a third party their interest in that entity, would they have to come before us?
I believe the answer to that is yes.
So for change in control, for a substantial change in control of
Yeah,
the,
it would. Yeah, typically our documents provide, and again, I can only, I believe the answer to that is yes, but in the context of the assignment, none of the earlier protective provisions have been or will be altered that were in place when the prior board approved this transaction back in 2015 or 2018. So any and all of those protective provisions, to the extent there, would stay in place. And I believe that there are protective provisions for change of ownership.
okay. So at the end of the day, whoever is the final operator will both has to be approved by the county as itself, but then would need to subsequently come before the IDA before a transaction can be completed.
I believe the answer to that is yes, even in the instance of a change of ownership, although it might be nuanced depending on the change of control.
The change of control in the entity that we're approving,
Yeah,
that we may approve an
if
assignment to today.
Correct.
So there is a potential that they could assign the interest ownership in the entity that they've established, that we're consenting to the assignment of today, and then never have to come before us again.
Yeah, I don't want to misrepresent this. Peter, I don't know if you have any color on this, but I'm going to take a quick look at the 2015 documents on this point.
And the reason
I don't have any immediate color either.
I think the reason this is so critical is because we essentially could end up with somebody that, we never get a chance to evaluate.
Yeah, I mean, again, the terms of this transaction is whatever was negotiated in 2015 control. In other words, we're not taking away or adding any protective provisions that did
No,
not
I get,
exist
I,
previously.
yeah, I understand that.
approved.
I'm not specifically talking about in arrears. I'm talking about going forward, where if we're consenting to a change and consent to an assignment today, there are two ways that will then take three ways. One, they keep it forever and they're the operators. Two, they sell it to, and I'm using sell, but I don't mean the word sell. They assign their interest to a third party and who is an entirely new interest. Or three, the entity, I think it's called Live something, they sell 99.999% of that entity to a third party, and Live, whatever it is still the assignee that we approve, but not the actual makeup of the equity ownership of that corporation.
Yeah, no, I understand your question. I'm going to try to give you a quick answer there. Let me just see.
I mean, Andrew, it seems to me, based on what I know, I'm not a lawyer, but that if they do sell their interest to someone else, and they wanted to transfer the IDA benefits, they would have to come to us.
Well, most certainly, if they sell the entity, I'm just trying to confirm in the 2015 documents again, whose benefits and burdens are being transferred, if that is also true with respect to a change in the ownership of the entity. And I just need a minute.
While Andrew's checking the definition of assignment, the assignment for this transaction specifically provides that the assignment prohibition is waived specifically for this transaction only, and that any future assumptions would be bound by the prohibitions under the original documents.
Right, but my question is not an assignment as in we're doing today. It's an assignment of the equity of the entity itself.
Yeah,
I don't know that would be covered under that definition.
Well, under most commercial agreements, and Andrew's checking this with this one, but under most commercial agreements, an assignment would include, by definition, a transfer of a majority interest in the party. So that would
yeah.
be,
so the short answer to that is that it is not covered particularly in the resolution, but it is covered in the assignment document that we have prepared. There was a prior covenant in the documents that basically the ownership structure of the existing lessee would stay in place, and we intend to keep that covenant. And we had that, I believe, or actually I know we had it in the draft of the assignment document, where the covenant would continue as to the upstream ownership structure of the current entity. So to the extent that covenant would change, in other words, or to the extent the upstream ownership structure of the substitute or new lessee would change, that would be something that would require consent under the documents.
So what you said it was in the draft? Does that indicate it was taken out? And if not,
no, it wasn't taken out. It just basically it is more a technical point, not a resolution point, but it is in the draft of the transaction of the assignment transaction documents that we have prepared.
Okay. And I guess the simple question is, and I guess I'll obviously from a lawyer perspective, you give me the answer. Does it not make better sense just to include the language in the actual assignment document? Or
again, if I could interrupt for a second, this is an assignment and assumption. I wasn't aware we were going to be modifying terms.
Well, if
Well,
it's in the term of the original
yeah, we are-
documents, it's not
We're
modifying
not
anything.
modifying, it's basically factual modification. So the old document basically says that there's a covenant that X and Y is the owner of the lessee. And obviously that is no longer factually true. And in the assignment agreement, those points that are no longer factually true are updated.
Again, my only point is that, you know, we weren't talking about modifying the document.
Right, Peter, but that doesn't modify the documents. I believe you have seen that draft. It basically just shows whoever is the upstream parent of the LLC coming in. So the same covenant continues with respect to that entity that was in place in the documents.
Exactly, that's fine. What I'm basically saying is we're willing to certainly live by the documents as they currently exist.
Yeah, it's
Right.
binding the assignee to the terms of the original documents.
So the fact that the original documents will have different names still binds the new the new assignee to the terms that they may not assign this under the current assignment to anyone at all without our consent.
Yes, but it's not just by virtue of it of there being different names, but also by virtue of the actual assignment document. So again, what is in front of you is a resolution that approves entering into this transaction, subject to the county receiving its cure, et cetera, but the
Right.
actual assignment is effectuated through a series of documents. And the assignment document specifically, corrects essentially, if you will, any factual inaccuracies that are due to, different names being used in connection with the prior entity. So if you will, the particular covenant that relates to the new, the old entity's parent organization is
Right.
in the draft document that now provides for the new entity's parent organization.
Okay.
Okay,
So as a banker who does a ton of assignments, I'm concerned about what a title company would say about that and whether we would be properly protected if there was a challenge at a later date. So if you guys think it's fine, then as long as we all accept the intent is that any further assignments of any sort would be required to come back to us, and that's the intent everybody works under, then I'm okay with it.
okay, thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Are there any other board members who have any questions of either Andrew or Peter Curry?
I do, if you don't mind.
Yes, John.
All right. Question. I was on the RFP board in 2014 when it was between Ratner's Group and MSG. So since 2015, August 23rd, when the Coliseum was taken over, the Ratner Group, which was Forest City Experience, have they lost ownership since that time? Have we gone through, is this the second coming in 5 years? Or is the Ratner Group still in charge?
Now, the Ratner Group actually transferred its interest before that closing. So at the closing, the Onexim Group controlled the interest in Nassau Events Center.
Okay, so my deal is this, and I just have a few questions as a resident that lives in Nassau County. And listen, COVID has hit all of us, and it's hit the Coliseum, hit the Garden, it's hit everybody there is. But with my dealings in 5 years, since being on that board, there were certain promises that were made, maybe not on paper, but I just want to go through this. So on August 23rd, Radner made a statement that the Coliseum to break even needed 300 events a year, 300 events. Since 2015, and that's with the Islanders only playing 6 games a year. So that leaves 294 events. Since that time, there was no major team to come there. You had a WNBA or a D League basketball league that was paying $8. So my theory is, and I'm asking this, the employee rate that was going to be at the Coliseum is not there. There was an entertainment group that originally was going to be part of that deal that is still not there after 5 years. And what I worry about is now that we're at 5 years, what happens for the next 15 years? Because I feel that the Coliseum cannot carry itself for another 15 years. I mean, if we're looking economically about what's going on, that should be the biggest thing that we as a board look at going forward, because it'll be next year with COVID, there'll be somebody else taking the spot of whoever's taking the spot this year. And me and myself right now, unless those things are answered, I just don't get how financially the Coliseum can last for another 15 years under our IDA grants. And that's just me personally. So thanks.
Well, and I can answer this. We're only dealing with the IDA benefits. The issue of the Coliseum's operation is ultimately subject to discussions between the county and the new leaseholder. Whether the Coliseum succeeds or not is not really under our purview. All we're doing here is consenting to transfer the IDA package over to the new entity, and hope that it is successful. I mean, the ultimate hope here is that the Coliseum will reopen and that the Islanders will come and play their next season at the Coliseum. But really, the issue of the success of the Coliseum going forward is an issue that has to be dealt with between the county and the leaseholder and anyone else who might be called in to operate the Coliseum.
So
Richie,
the question I have also then would be, the entertainment part of the Coliseum was separate to the Coliseum's IDA grant?
No,
When it went in as an IDA grant?
no.
It wasn't included.
Okay.
We didn't vote. We never voted on it.
Okay.
They would have to come back for what was allocated, and they never came back. But Richie, let me slightly, disagree. I think you're right that the negotiations are going to be held between the county executive and the county and the lender and the existing leaseholder and a future operator, hopefully. But I think which my question and John's questions are directly related. I want to make sure it is going to be successful, because I think it is our obligation. It is our responsibility as we're deciding whether to give continued tax benefits to something that may not be economically viable. And so that's why my question was related to, it may have been technical, but it was related to making sure whoever's going to be there has got to come back and tell us, like everyone else has told us before, how they're going to make it successful. And I don't think they get a pass, or anyone gets a pass, especially on probably one of our single largest assets in the county. They should have to come back and tell the public, tell the residents of Nassau County, and tell us who are responsible for authorizing a tax benefits, how they're going to make it successful. So I think John's question is fair, that we do have a vested interest in making sure it's going to be successful. Otherwise, why in the world should we continue benefits for something we think will fail? And I agree we should do this, because I think it's the best interest of the county. And I think as a lender who has done this around the country many times, I think the lender is doing the right thing. But I think we do have an extremely vested interest in making sure that this is going to be successful. And somebody at some point is going to have to come back and tell us how they're going to do it.
I will discuss that with the county, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't want the success, but the terms of what's ultimately negotiated here is really between the county and the entity that we're ultimately consenting to transfer those obligations. And I think, and Andrew, you could correct me if I'm wrong, that this consent does not take effect unless and until the county has an agreement that closes with the new leaseholder. Am I correct in that the consent does not happen without that.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. So that's a condition precedent that the cure and the assignment has to take place simultaneously.
Right.
So the cure and the assignment, but wait, the cure and the assignment to the lender's designated entity as described in what's in front of us today. That doesn't mean that that's going to be the final operator of the facility. The county and the lender and this new operator at a later date will have those conversations, but this is going to take place well before there is a new operator. They're going to close, they're going to cure, the lender will cure, I assume, or this entity will cure. And then at some point, there'll be a conversation about a final assignment to what we believe will be a final operator. Is that right, Andrew?
No, I don't necessarily agree with that. We don't know
Okay.
what that future is going to be. And I think there's a little bit of talking about the Coliseum when you're really perhaps talking about the overall development of the Nassau hub. So
No,
the
I'm
overall
talking about the, no, let me be clear. I'm only talking about the operation of Nassau Coliseum and the event center. Whatever has been proposed or will be proposed by a developer for the excess parsonage is a separate, entirely conversation. I'm talking about butts in the seats in the Coliseum operating as an event center. That's it. So the question, so in that theory, are you saying that the lender may operate this facility for forever?
Correct. I don't know what they're going to do in the future. I can't say that they won't. If you think about it, they have the biggest investment in this of anybody right now. They've sunk $100 million into this.
Actually, no, they don't. Nassau County residents do.
But in terms of dollars out of pocket, and I also would like to remind everybody that, hold on, Tim, I would also like to remind everybody that at the time in 2015, when it was done, among the benefits were the construction and the effect of the construction on the population of Nassau County. So the spending of more than $150 million, the ripple effect of that money. So there were a lot of actions of performance by the original developer, which caused us to have a completely reconstituted Coliseum. A lot of money got spent, and the county felt the positive economic benefit of all of that money getting spent. And that's something which I think should be considered. In terms of the benefits that were granted, the sales tax benefits are over, the mortgage tax benefits are over. What we're talking about right now is the continuation of a pilot. It's also an understanding that once future development does occur, this parcel is going to be carved off from the remainder of the development site, and that development site will have its own either real estate taxes or pilots. So you know, to feel that nothing else is going on, it's really got to be looked at in context. The first context is how much money has been spent and the economic benefit to the county. The second context is that the future holds a lot of different things. I don't think anybody's coming in right now to start to operate a Coliseum until we have an idea about when you can get back to utilizing a Coliseum. So I can't tell you, Tim, that somebody else is going to come in and operate this.
So while I may disagree with you in your premise about what's first, second, and third, I think what my opinion is that the first and most important thing is the residents and the benefits that the residents get of Nassau County get. And as a lender and as a developer, those guys make calculated business decisions to invest in a property. Just like anybody who opened up a pizzeria and got caught out by a month later, got caught by COVID. Maybe they didn't put in $100 million, but they're suffering exactly the same way. But I understand the size, the benefits of the investment. Nassau County got its lease payments, and they got the revenue that they predicted that they were going to get from it. That's not my issue. My issue, and it's not a future development that God, I hope, is a smashing success. The question is, who are we working with that's going to be operating a facility in our neighborhood and in our community that the residents of Nassau County get stuck with for the rest of their lives? And that's where I want to know who it's going to be. And I think we have a right to know, both from a resident perspective, the county executive has a right to know, and as a board approving this, we have a right to know. If the promises that were made to John when he and the other members that were on those committees, we have a right to know if those promises are going to be followed up on.
Well,
But that's
Again,
a- that's
I
a-
agree that we should do this because from a banker's perspective, I understand why they're doing it, but that doesn't negate our role and responsibility today. So we can move on.
Yeah, all right, well, let me first ask if have any other questions. I want to read a statement from the county that I have for the record, and that may clarify, Tim, some of the points that you've raised. But before I read that, does anyone else have any questions for Andrew or Peter on the legal issues? All right, hearing none, let me read a statement from Nassau County, and then I want to make a couple of comments, and then we can take any further questions or public comments if there are. This is from Nassau County to be read into the record. Coliseum tenant NEC Onexum has requested approval from the Nassau County Industrial Development Agency to transfer to its leasehold lender, USIF, IDA benefits associated with the Coliseum and its renovation. Discussions are ongoing between the county and USIF, which is seeking to exercise its right under the Coliseum lease, cure NEC Onexum's present default, and step into the shoes of NEC as tenant. As such, the county considers the requested IDA action consistent with the ongoing effort to transfer NEC's obligations under the Coliseum lease to the leaseholder lender. The county continues to have constructive conversations with NEC, USIS, and Nassau Hub developer RXR Realty on a viable plan for the arena's operations and the future transformation of the surrounding hub site. Approval of the transfer of IDA benefits would represent another positive procedural step in this effort and is supported by Nassau County. I'm sorry, that's a statement from Nassau County. Let me just give you my thoughts and then ask if there are any further questions and also if there are any public comments as well. This is a step as part of a process to help get the Coliseum up and running during very challenging times. With that, it's clear from Peter's comments and my understanding that without the IDA transferring these benefits to the new leaseholder, that this would not go forward. I think it's important to note that by the IDA taking this action, this is a step in the direction ultimately of having the Coliseum reopen, be successful, have the Islanders play their next season, God willing, at the Coliseum, and for the county and its taxpayers to get revenues and rent that hasn't been paid for a number of months. And I do hope, along with everyone, that the Coliseum is successful. And I have full faith in the county and its ability to negotiate a successful agreement in a relatively short period of time. I will take it upon myself once that is done to report back to the board on the terms of that agreement between the county and the leaseholder. And as Andrew and I think Peter have indicated, if in fact there is a change of ownership, that will obviously have to come back to the board if those benefits that were granted in 2015 and 2018 were to be transferred by consent to another succeeding entity. So with that, I'm sorry. Are there any further questions or comments from members of the board
I would like to make one more, and I
Yeah.
apologize, but I just have to get this out. So another thing about the Coliseum, when we talk about getting revenues going forward because they owe us money, is that shows that before COVID that they had issues. Number two is Live Nation runs the Coliseum and runs Jones Beach Theater. So the theory is, and the term mothballing was always the theory at the Nassau Coliseum, meaning that there were no summer concerts at the Coliseum, which mean less revenue because Live Nation would take it to Jones Beach. Number two is when we read the referendum today, the first paragraph, and I'm just taking two sets out of the act, it says, us as an IDA, developing economically sound commerce, number one. Number two is to prevent unemployment and economic deterioration. As far as I'm concerned, going forward, we're in a cloudy area right now. And to say if we give up and not do this, and it's going to be our fault, cannot be our fault. It has to be what we feel going forward to our residents. And that's just my feeling. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. And I John, want to make another point to you that, and again, you know, ultimately, there are obviously questions about the success of the Coliseum and what comes there, but getting this facility reopened is critical to the businesses, especially the numerous small businesses in that particular area. I am a big fan of Borelli's. Been there since the mid 1950s. I went there as a kid. I've talked to Frank Borelli. Getting the Coliseum reopened and hoping, by the way, that fans ultimately will return. And, you know, obviously none of us are whizzes or scientists or medical experts that can determine when that will happen, is critical to the businesses surrounding that facility. So I totally agree with you. And I did want to make one other point. And just so it's very clear that this is, and I think it was related by Peter, this only relates to the Coliseum itself. It does not mean that these benefits will apply to any other future project at the hub. That will be treated separately. I'm not saying that any of them will come before the IDA, but it's certainly possible, and they would be treated separately. If any project, you know, for instance, I'm just giving you a hypothetical, a housing project or a hotel project wanted to come to the IDA, that would be treated separately from the Coliseum benefits. It's a completely, I understand it's the hub, but it's those are completely separate items that would come before us separately in the future.
Mr. Chair, the other question I would ask is, have we looked at the Coliseum's records over the last 5 years to see if they're in the black or the red? Is that part of our option, Andrew, or no?
As the IDA, you absolutely always have the right to, you know, request financials or reasonable documents from entities that
I
you're
asked the
supporting.
council, do you know if they've been in the red or the black over the last 5 years?
You're asking me, I do not know, no.
We're voting on something that we have no idea what's going forward. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments before I ask if anyone from the public wishes to speak? We can always go back to you anyway, to the board. Are there any hands raised, Catherine, from the public that may want to speak about this resolution?
Sorry, everyone. No, Chairman, not at this time.
Okay. So I will take a voice vote on this. Richard Kessel, I vote, I'm sorry, I apologize, not a voice vote, but I'll call the roll. Richard Kessel, I vote aye. Anthony Simon.
Aye.
Amy Flores.
Mr. Chairman, did someone make the motion? It should be made and then.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. I will make the motion to adopt the consent resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second. Lewis Warren will second.
Okay, Lewis Warren. I'll go back again. Richard Kessel. I vote aye. Anthony Simon.
Aye.
Lewis Warren.
Aye.
Amy Flores.
Aye.
John Kamadas.
Nay.
Tim Williams.
Aye.
And Chris Fusco. Last but not least.
I vote aye.
Okay, the resolution carries 6-1. Just to indicate that the plan currently, as I indicated before, is for the board to meet again on August 25th at our normal time. It is my hope, and Lewis and I talked about this the other day, I'm expecting that the August 25th meeting will be Zoom, but I am hoping with your all agreement that our September meeting will be in person with the appropriate spacing, social distancing, mask wearing, and guidelines established by the state. So I'd love to see everyone in person, and I'm hoping that if everyone is comfortable with it, and I'll be reaching out to everyone personally, that we can, we do our next meeting on August 25th, Zoom, and that our September meeting, which I think is tentatively scheduled, if I remember correctly, for September 17th, but we will get out a schedule to everyone for the next series of meetings shortly, that we can do that in person together. Is there any other business from any of the board members before we take a motion to adjourn? All right, hearing none, I want to wish everyone good health. I look forward to seeing you again by Zoom in a few weeks. Tim, I just want to indicate to you that I have already started to follow up on some of the things we talked about vis-a-vis Long Beach Superblock, and
Great.
I'm going to ask Andrew to talk to you further to figure out how we can do what we discussed.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a
I
motion.
Who is
second.
that?
I think it was Mr. Simon. made the
All right,
motion.
Anthony Simon, is there a second?
I second. Tim Williams.
Tim Williams, all those in favor of adjourning indicate by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Nassau County Industrial Development Agency. The time is now 7:28 p.m. We thank you for joining us tonight and wish you a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Night. Good night, everybody.